If you spend a lot of time complaining about your offensive line and your receivers, you don't have a franchise quarterback. Giant fans spend a lot of time bemoaning and lamenting their wide receivers and O-line. I don't think Daniel Jones is the guy.
Those words, of course, were from Colin Cowherd. They were on Monday. This is Tim, this is Online Big Blue, bringing you the best New York Giants sports talk and entertainment. If you didn't see his video or his podcast or whatever it is, James Williams sent it to him, and I usually don't watch Colin because I'm not a big Colin fan, but some of the things he does say make sense, and some of the things he says aggravates people because it's honesty. And that's kind of what we do here. It's honesty. And you know what? I've said it a million. There's a small segment of Giant fans that just...
what I got to say you really don't want to hear because honesty ain't too high up on your people priority list, right?
Honesty? You want honesty?
Sorry about that. I jumped in and interrupted Superman. But you know what? There's honesty and there's just things that people just don't want to see because they have their rose-colored glasses on. They have their rose-colored panties on over their head. And that's a problem. And to the idiots in the comments yesterday that told me, and I love it because I didn't respond and I should have, but told me that the wide receivers that Daniel Jones has are so terrible that, and I mentioned Phil Simms and Eli Manning, and they're like, well, Phil Simms had great wide receivers. I'm like, okay, listen, if you want to talk Giant history and you want to talk Giant history with me, don't be stupid. Okay, because I'm going to shred you. Outside of Mark Bavaro, who did Simms have? Mike Sherrard, Ernest Gray, Lionel Manuel, Solomon Miller, Byron Williams, Bobby Johnson, Tom Mulledy, Dan Hasselbeck. We can go on Phil McConkey. We can go on the entire lineage of Phil Simms and the wide receivers he didn't have. Because Phil Simms, outside of Bavaro for 3+ seasons, did not have anyone that you would consider big time in the league to throw to. And because the fact that I point out things about Daniel Jones does not mean I'm bashing Daniel Jones. It's called I'm being honest. And if you can't do it and you can't look at it and you can't deal with it, then fucking leave. Go away. Nobody cares. Because your opinions don't matter because you can't be honest about something. I give Daniel Jones credit and people are like, oh, how you bashing Daniel Jones today? It's like, you know what? Maybe you should listen before you leave an idiotic comment. Maybe. It's a possibility. And I'm sorry, if your starting quarterback is averaging 213 yards a game, both rushing and passing combined, those are good numbers if this is the mid-90s. I should say late 90s, mid-80s, 70s. Those are good numbers. But this is 2022. This is the 21st century. We need Buck Rogers. Learn your Giant history before you open your mouth and say something stupid. That's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say. Because someone that's been a fan that only knows Eli Manning, like I said, I go back to Craig Morton. And a lot of people need to Google that. So shut up and grow up. Okay, I want to talk about our old buddy Dave Gettleman. I got to give the New York Post credit because they piqued my interest about this. And, you know, it's one of those things. It's almost like, can we start redefining Gettleman's drafts? Can we now start taking it back? And I shouldn't even say redefining. Can we start regrading Gettleman's draft? Because Gettleman, for all of his faults, he may have, if you look back into history, it may not have been the drafts that were his issues. It may have been the coaching staff. It may be who he was in reference to who he brought in as coaches that did not help cultivate this team. And I've said that a million times before. I have not liked the Giants coaching staff for the last 4 years. I've been a vocal proponent of them, of them being fired multiple times. Hated Shermer, hated Judge. Was not a big fan of even when Patrick Graham was successful, I was not a big fan of Patrick Graham. I mentioned that a million times before. But maybe the problem Gettleman had was his views on coaching personnel and not his draft class. Because if you take a look at it, you go back to 19. You go back to the gold jacket pick, the hand of God, the football mecca. And you take a look at it. And you say, okay, well, 19, you know what? You right now, you've hit a home run. You've hit a home run with Saquon Barkley. You really have. And that's something that you have a transitional player now. You have a guy that if you have a guy that literally at the running back position is carrying this team. That's something to say. And then you jump into the 19 draft. You got Daniel Jones. I think he's gone from an F to a C+. And I think and even, like I said, go listen to Colin Cowherd. Even he said that Dable is squeezing every ounce of talent that's there in Daniel Jones. He may be endearing himself to his fans with the toughness because he had a bloody hand. Even though we talked about how Youngblood played for the Rams in the Super Bowl with a broken leg. Emmett Smith played with a dislocated shoulder against the Giants in the playoffs. But hey, whatever. Bloody hand is bloody hand. He statistically is not a 2022 quarterback, but you know what? He's doing what the team is asking him to do. And right now he's not making mistakes, which is what we need to do, which he needs to do. He needs to not make mistakes and manage the game and hand the ball off to Saquon. That's it. So I've taken him from an F to a C+. And Dexter Lawrence is turning himself into something. And it's funny that he's blossoming more with Leonard Williams out of the lineup. He really has. He has 17 pressures and 3 sacks. And including he had that one that knocked the Packers out of field goal range. Of course, if you go by the Venable Pro Football Focus, he's the 5th ranked defensive tackle. But he's really stepped up. He's really put up a gear. He really has. Now the problem is you got DeAndre Baker in that draft, and that was the part of the that you got DeAndre Baker. But then you also have O'Shane Ximines. O'Shane, can you see? Who's actually doing something? There may be some value in O'Shane. Like I said, I have an O'Shane Ximines jersey, which I bought his rookie season. I may rock that jersey to the game on Sunday against the Carolina Panthers. I'm sorry, it's Carolina Panthers. Oh, I got Carolina Panthers on my mind for a reason because I saw some idiocy on Twitter, and I really got to stay off Twitter. People are like, we need to trade for DJ Moore. We could give him this, so we could give him this, so we can give. Okay, okay, kiddies, basic math time. You have $3 million in cap space. He has $6 million in salary left. He has $6 million in salary. It's $3 million. There's a $3 million gap there. And I don't think the Panthers are going to want to get rid of their 26-year-old wide receiver. They're probably going to try to move on from Robbie Anderson. Just makes my head hurt. But you know what? You still, like I said, you got O'Shane doing something. You have the Julian Love, who's now the starting safety and one of them 15 captains. You got Darius Slayton, who finally came out of I always think Darius Slayton was in the doghouse. I don't know why. I don't know why this regime was so much in love with David Sills, well, dangerous David Sills, that they did not see what was in front of him with Darius. I've been screaming about Darius Slayton since training camp. But that's okay. And then if you jump over to 2000, like I said, the best picks that I've seen in the 2000 draft were, of course, Andrew Thomas. 0 sacks, 6 pressures. He's, again, with Pro Football Focus, he's the highest graded offensive player. Boy, Chris Collinsworth is making money out of that crap. But he is the big reason that Saquon is being Saquon of old. He is that reason. He is that guy that just 2 years ago, majority of Giant fans wanted to dump because they thought he was horrid. It's the same thing with Evan Neal going on right now. It's the same thing going on right now. But he is a home run. He is a slam of a pick. Then you have Xavier McKinney, the only player who was on the field for every defensive snap. He is a guy that is doing what he needs to do. He is a guy that blitzes. He is the guy that roams the defensive backfield. He does everything. He breaks up into that. He broke up the 4th down pass. And then you have Darnay Holmes. Now, Darnay Holmes had the summer of all summers, but you know what? His play has not stepped up to that level, but he's solid in the slot. You have Tay Crowder. I can't say anything about Tate Crowder because Tate Crowder to me, you don't go out and you don't sign AJ Klein, you don't go out and you don't bring back you don't bring back a player, and then you also don't go out and Jalen Smith if you're happy with your inside linebackers. But you know what? He's still doing what needs to be done. And you still have Cam Brown and Carter Coughlin, who are special teams extraordinaires. You got Matt from Connecticut and Shane Lemieux still on the injuries list. So you had a pretty impressive draft in 2020. Now 2021 is where it gets murky. It gets murky. Can I work it? Kadarius Toney to me is just Kadarius Toney. I mean, I have nothing personal against the kid, but you know what? I can't grade you if you're never on the field. Azeez Ojulari, starting outside linebacker. He's injured right now again, but you know, he had a great rookie season with the 8.5 sacks. Aaron Robinson is an expected starter, but you know what? Aaron Robinson to me is always a step behind. He's a slot guy, but he's still on the team. Rodarius Williams and Rodarius Williams and Smith have yet to come out and contribute anything. But you know what? Brightwell had a game-tying touchdown, his first one. You know, who did not get concerned when Saquon Barkley went out? I mean, who didn't get concerned? Who didn't freak out a little bit when Barkley went out? But it's just one of those things. He's on the team. He's contributing. So maybe the problem with Gettleman was not his draft. Maybe the problem with Gettleman was his free agents. And maybe the problem with Gettleman is his ability not to find the correct coach or get the right guy to take the job for the Giants. I think those are the things that, you know, that, I mean, like I said, I was never a Gettleman hater. I tried to not justify, but I tried to rationalize some of his moves. And some of those moves you couldn't. Like I said, I understood the OBJ trade, but I didn't get it. Understood it, but I didn't get it. There's a difference between getting it and understanding it. But you know, it's one of those weird things that maybe his problem was who he was picking as a coach and his staff. And we got to kind of go from there. DJ Davidson suffered a sprained MCL against the win. He was injured over in the third quarter on a punt return play. Why your starting defensive tenders for returning punts, I don't know. And the punting team, I don't know, but that's okay. Giants signed Robert Foster from the practice squad. He spent he was with the Giants. He was with the Giants for most of training camp. He's a two-time national champion, 6'2", 196 pounds, played in 30 games, regular season games, with 7 starts in Buffalo and with the Commanders. Spent some times with the Cowboys and the Dolphins. You know what? It's one of those things that at the end of the day, the Giants are winning. They're winning in interesting ways. And we got a little bit of luck, and it's a little bit of bad luck for the Ravens, but the Ravens are going to be without Marcus Williams, who's the safety who injured himself pretty seriously, I believe. Significant playing time, they're saying, in their 1917 win over the Bengals. That's a good news. That's a good news for the Giants. Because of the fact that, not that we're ever going to get anyone behind the safety, because that's just not the way we play. But you know, that's taking a big piece of their defense off the field for us. So you know what? You got to take a look. You got to hope. You got to kind of go from there. We're gonna have we might do a nighttime stream. Everyone keeps asking me if I'm going to do a nighttime stream. I'm not into doing nighttime streams. Scott got so much going on in life. I like everyone else. It's difficult to find an evening to do an evening stream. That's why we usually do them in the afternoon. But we're going to try to I think we'll try to do a nighttime stream this week, maybe around 8 or 9 o'clock, probably about 8 o'clock. But you know, we're going to kind of go from there. And again, this is Tim with Online Big Blue, bringing you the best of New York Giants sports talk and entertainment. And as always, if you could like subscribe, if you're ringing that bell, you want to be, that'd be awesome.